Hello, everybody. I'm Derek McClure. For those of you that don't me, I look after the ambulance station here, and I'm the community paramedic. That's very kind. The Valemount Elder Collaborative is pleased to have all the seniors come to the fair. We'd like to acknowledge we're hosting this event on the traditional territories of the Simp and lately Tenay peoples. We had our first seniors fair in 2019, and it was going to be an annual event, but it's been delayed slightly, so we're back on. And quite a crowd this year. Excellent. The Elder Collaborative is a committee under the Valemount Health Clinic made up of local agencies and individuals wanting to address gaps to support aging in Valemount. We're trying to let seniors know what's available. Please, there's many tables of the things that are offered in the community, from the clinic, the Legion, the ambulance service, and a couple others. You can take time to look through those during the lunch break. And during my talking anytime during the day, if something doesn't make sense, just make a note and give me the note, and I'll try to figure out what I was trying to say. Oh, shoot. So the only guy that's deaf and can't pronounce, they get him up here. So this event is funded in part by the Age Friendly Communities Grant delivered by I guess I should put this up so I can see you as I'm talking. Is that better? So this is an event funded in part by the Age Friendly Communities Grant delivered by the BC Healthy Community Society in partnership with the Ministry of Health. The Village of Valemount was able to apply for a grant on behalf of the Elder Collaborative, so thanks for everybody to make this grant application successful. And there's many behind-the-scenes people, but of course Northern Health with their staff from the Valemount Clinic, Robson Valley Community Services, and the Valemount Seniors Housing Society. It tells me to mention that those tables are available. We want to thank Rebecca for all the goodies. She's with food security coordinator with the Robson Valley Support Society, and the secondary school food class was helping to make all the goodies that are there. I've got a big star beside this. Remember to fill out and return the evaluation surveys. There's useful gifts, now no fighting, for the first 28 that are given back, so be ready for that. So the first guest of the morning, any questions before I introduce the first guest? Excellent. We're short on time, so anytime I can get somebody up early, that's good. Somebody who has one of the best, second best public speaking voice. I'll tell you who's the first later. He looks after the Personal Health Records Project, and Valemount was very fortunate to be one of the, I believe, first to take care of it. I have it myself on my phone. It's wonderful. Your appointments, your records, everything's right on your phone. And I'm not doing Jess any justice here. So Jess Rothenberger, come on up here, and we'll, and his team, you're going to love his public speaking. He's just full of energy.
Do I need the mic? You hear me? I don't. Okay. Uh-oh, I've got an audience and a microphone. It's enough to start doing some Elvis. My favorite. I'm going to resist the temptation. Anyhow, before I introduce our team here, a quick question. Who here, raise your hand please, if you've ever been sick? Really? Good Lord, I'm moving to Valemount. What's in the water here? No? Okay, a couple of you have been sick before. Has anybody ever booked an appointment with the Valemount Clinic? Okay, has everyone ever had like a lab test or an x-ray or something to that effect? Okay, good, sweet. We've got the right crew, the right audience here. Awesome. So what do I want to tell you? First, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Jess Rothenberger. I'm very lucky I get to work with the Rural Coordination Centre of BC with Dr. Ray Markham. Has anybody heard of Dr. Ray Markham? Surely you have, yes. So he's my boss, lucky me. And I also get to work with these lovely people who are going to introduce themselves momentarily. And we're here because we're in the business of supporting Valemount with its implementation of its, ready for this, personal health record. Go Holly. I'm glad Holly's here. I see a couple of friendly faces. I see John here, I saw Kurian, Pete. We'll get to them later, but anyhow, where was I? So we're here to support the implementation of a personal health record. Kai's going to tell you more about exactly what a personal health record is, but I did want to just kind of brag a little bit about our partnership. So you'll be pleased to know that Valemount is the first Northern Health Authority clinic to flip the switch on a personal health record. Yes. Right. So you're kind of leading the way. It's early days, but I wonder if 5 years from now we look back, we'll be able to celebrate when there's other communities across the region and the province leveraging a personal health record to make life easier for doctors and life better for patients. And we can look back and think it all started in Valemount. So that's exciting. Okay. So practically speaking, what we're doing here today is we're here to help you, support you to register for the personal health record. It's really easy. It only takes a couple minutes. We're over there on that booth. So who here today is not going to leave without having come to visit us and registered for the personal health record? Shame. I want your hands. Everybody. What's? Nope, you don't. You haven't. But you will, and it's going to be great. So you might be talking about the Health Gateway or Healthy Life. Yes, and this is our man. He's going to tell us all about that. Yes. But I'm going to shut up because I do like to talk. So I'll get on with it. But another thing that's special about what's happening right now is, so we have the clinic, Heidi and her staff, the PCAs. All the doctors are on board. We have a really enthusiastic group of patient volunteers. Some of them are here today. They know who they are. John, Holly. So we have the support of the community. We have the Northern Health Authority. That's Kai. And we even have the product owner, Sam. And so she's the kind of the brains, or helps manage the brains behind the personal health record itself. So we have this really unique collaborative partnership, and we're here, we're locked and loaded, and we're ready to take Valemount to the next step. So please help us get registered with the PHR today, and I'll talk to you in 5 years. Maybe sooner.
I am not like Jess, not super comfortable standing in front of a microphone, so hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Perfect. All right. A little bit closer. How's that? That's better. Beauty. Thank you. Okay, so my name is Kai Leishner. As Jess said, I work for Northern Health. My title is as a clinical informatics specialist. We won't get into what that exactly is because I don't really know. But I work primarily with our portals within Northern Health, where we have two. We have Healthy Life and we have My Health Key. Those are primarily because we have a couple electronic medical records. So your record, that's stored in the computer. We have two portals that are associated with that. The Health Gateway that everyone has kind of heard about, that's where you get your COVID stuff, where you can get some of your immunization information. That's run by the province. And we don't want multiple portals. That is not our ultimate goal, but that is life as we know it right now. And there are differences between them. There's different information in them. But today we want to talk about My Health Key, which is going to give you access to your lab results, any medical imaging that you have. If you have x-rays or CTs or things like that, they're going to give you the reports there. The really cool thing that it's going to be allowing you to do is schedule appointments with your doctor at the Valemount Clinic. So it will have the online scheduling, so you'll be able to go on. If the clinic's not open, for you to call and make an appointment, Sunday afternoon, evening, when you remember, or when you're like, oh, no, I got this pain, it just started, I need to see a doctor, maybe tomorrow, you can go online and book an appointment with them right then and there. You don't need to wait for the clinic to be open. And so, like Jess said, this is early days, and with our partnership, we are hoping to work with the community of Valemount to build the product and for what you need as patients. So it's not going to be one of those, hey, we got a new program, it's cool. We got a whole bunch of people that can do the computer stuff, and they were in a dark closet somewhere and they built this thing for you, but you didn't help inform it. So it doesn't really work for you. But that's what we're trying to change, is we are hoping that through this partnership, we can build something that actually works for the patients and for the clinic itself as well. So, does anyone have any questions about the Health Gateway, Healthy Life, My Health Key?
I'm confused because about 2 years ago, when that you were promoting a healthy, I can't remember what the app was, but you could put it on your computer, and you could find out all your records, your blood tests, and does that dovetail into what you are talking about then?
2 years ago, it was probably Healthy Life, which is Northern Health, and so that has a lot of the same information in it, but you can't do your online scheduling through Healthy Life for Valemount Clinic. Yeah, and then there's going to be more things coming out, and I'll let Sam speak to some of the kind of cool things that are just on the horizon that are coming out for My Health Key. Think of My Health Key as your direct connection with the Valemount Clinic. No other portal can do that.
The other thing is, do you have visuals? Are you going to sort of diagram, because some of us are not very good with computers and apps. So I know you were yesterday.
You're going to come visit us, and we'll walk and I'll show you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome.
Sorry, we had another question there.
Yeah, so I signed up yesterday and then found out that the tests I had a month ago are not available to me yet. So are you going to get our whole records so that they would be available as they are on Health Gateway? I'm still pretty confused about why this one's going to be so much better than Health Gateway, or what I don't understand about that. But I actually would like access to my old records.
Yes,
Are you going to get them eventually?
that is the hope, yes. There are some technological, techie type stuff as to why those aren't available right now. But yes, that is the hope, that this is early days. It's the beginning of this product. And if that is something that you as the community are also saying and speaking that, we're also saying the same thing. We're saying, we need to get the whole record into here, right? It'll be a bit of a journey. So we don't want to say that My Health Key is better than Health Gateway or Healthy Life, or this is better than the other one. They fill different functions. So Health Gateway is never going to be able to allow you to interact with your family doctor. That's just not something it's going to be able to do anytime, really ever, that we know about. So you're not going to be able to online schedule through there, no messaging, things like that. It'll have lots of other information. And so kind of how I led off with, we have 3 main portals right now. We don't want to have 3 main portals. That's just a fact of where we are in the landscape at the moment. But ideally, we have 1, and it does all the things that you need it to do. And we'll get there eventually. But as of right now, unfortunately, it is confusing. It's confusing for me, and I work in it every day.
We're going to build it, right? Valemount is going to build this program
That's exactly
for ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, who here has registered with the Health Gateway? Good, fair chunk, okay, awesome. Yeah, so to Kai's point, they're not mutually exclusive. I would encourage everybody to register with Health Gateway, to register with Healthy Life, and also with My Health Key. They all, at present, have different sort of data points and functionality, but they're all a good thing to sign up for. Just to hammer home the point though, the one distinct advantage about the My Health Key portal is that it connects you to your clinic, right? That's the key difference. And the other difference too is, together we're going to work on making that solution even better over time. So, another question?
I'm kind of like a trader because we actually are moving away. Sad, but this time. And would this be a good thing to get so when we go to our other place, our records could be transferred?
Why don't we let Sam deal with that? And you also want to introduce yourself.
Sure, I'll do a little bit of an introduction first. So my name is Sam. I work for a company called Bright Health. We are a not-for-profit organization based in Prince George, so we're kind of your neighbor, not too far away. So we have spent many, many years supporting medical clinics like the Valemount Clinic. We build a program that they use electronically, and now we're trying to bring patients into their healthcare as well and kind of fill that gap so that you can be connected directly to your clinic. So just to kind of reiterate what these gentlemen have said, My Health Key is the only program that links directly to the health clinic here. While there are many different programs out there for different purposes, as we build out more and more functions of My Health Key, you'll be able to interact more and more with your health clinic here. Now, as far as transferring information, it kind of depends on the community you're going to. Ideally, they would be someone that could also use My Health Key in their health centers as well. But in the meantime, it is a good idea to get all of these different apps. Have your information in hand as much as you can so that when you do transfer to your new community, you have your records online and you can easily pull them up and share if they don't use My Health Key or these other programs.
Any last couple of questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, we live in a center where we actually have a hospital. We don't have a health center. Would that be compatible when the whole thing is up and running? Would we be able to go to our office in our hospital and get those records?
Are you from McBride?
Yes.
Yes, sorry. All right, so I didn't want to get into some of the kind of details because that's where it gets really murky. But so from McBride, we are wanting to turn on My Health Key in McBride shortly. So we're working with the clinic there. So I don't want to get too murky, but McBride has the hospital, but within the hospital they have like your family doctors and stuff, and they use MOIS, which is the electronic record that the nurses and doctors and everybody works in to input your information. That's what My Health Key is connected to. If you go in there as I need to go into the hospital, I need to go to emerge, or I have to have surgery or something, they would use a different record, but that would be tied to Healthy Life. And so, yeah, it gets really murky, but essentially, yes, in McBride, not yet, but soon, you're going to be able to register for My Health Key and use My Health Key in McBride. And now it's only one sign up. So if you've ever visited the Valemount Clinic, we can sign you up here today, and then when McBride goes live, it's a very quick little, yes, I also want to get McBride information, and you would be able to do that as well. Sorry.
Who here has an email address? Really? Who here doesn't have an email address? I can do that. So everyone has an email address, pretty much? Okay, great. Cool. So that's no excuses, basically. You're going to come visit us, right? So if you have an email address and a personal health number and any questions, I want to respect our time, but just know the three of us are right in that corner for the rest of the day. And so maybe we could do a couple more questions, but that said, come visit us, please. We really welcome you to come ask questions and get signed up.
Yeah. And sorry, I don't know your names, but the couple that are moving here shortly. Stewarts, sorry. Feel free to come back and chat with us about where you're going, and we can help try to problem solve to see those specifics for you, if it's available or coming soon or what, so that we can help get you set up.
Thank you.
My big question with these things is that I'm very conscious of safety, digital safety, and I try to do everything that I can. So how, like if anybody gets into my healthcare records or into, just getting my healthcare numbers, so what, how are we prompted that we keep up or I don't know.
So this software, like and Healthy Life, My Healthy, it's all built on essentially the same security standards as online banking. So it is extremely secure, very safe. Actually, one of the reasons why we've only just gotten around to this and we're late, like portals, your information online, like you've been able to do online banking for decades, and now you're just being able to get your healthcare information online. Part of that is because of privacy and security standards. We take that so seriously. It takes us this long to make sure that we are 100% certain that we are being as private and as safe and secure as we can be before we come to the table with this stuff. So you really can't get any more secure doing things online, right? But part of that safety and security is also with you. So your passwords, making sure that they're safe. You haven't written it on the back of your phone and left your phone somewhere. And so, yeah, so like it's.
You would never do that, right?
I don't have any memory either. I write a lot of my passwords down because I work with computers all day. I have 52 different passwords and I can never remember them all either. So, but it is difficult. Yeah. So, yeah. But, oh yeah, and that's exactly it. If you forget your password, it's the very easy, I forgot my password, and then they'll email it to you. And you can reset your password that way. It's very, very quick. But yeah, this.
I think we're getting the cue, guys.
Yeah, getting the hook. If there are any other questions, come back and chat with us and we can help you out.
One last thing. If for whatever reason you don't get around to come visiting us today, shame, you will and you will. Please spread the good word, and then so if you can't make it today, call your clinic later on. So spread the good word, tell all your friends, and then let's make this happen. Thanks.
Don't go anywhere for just a second. Thank you very much for your presentation. There's a couple takeaways for you. And the best part of the Seniors Fair is the draw for the first door prize. We'll keep it.
Some random person who's leaving town to draw the first door.
First door prize winner, Chris Carlson. Oh, outstanding. Couple housekeeping items. I tend to forget to mention these when we start. Should there be any issue with fire, the two exits that are available. And I find it warm in here myself, but if you're feeling uncomfortable or unwell during the day, we've got a top-notch paramedic and nurse at the side there. They have a booth. Don't feel uncomfortable to go ask a question. You'll note on your each of the tables there's notepads. Like myself, during a talk, I'll want to write something down because I won't remember it at the end to ask the question. And if time permits, they can be answered or given to the appropriate person to get back to you. That'll be good. So now comes one of the best parts of the day. We'll introduce the Honorable MLA for our area, Shirley Bond. She's been the MLA for Prince George Valemount 5 sessions, 20 years she's been working on our behalf to make things well. Shirley?
This isn't your first time.
No. That always happens to me. I want you to know that I have to usually lower the mic. So let me begin by recognizing that we are on the traditional territory of the Simpcw First Nation. I have the privilege of working with them. Very constructive relationship. I also work with the Lheidli First Nation, and so proud to work with Chief Darlene Logan. So I'm getting some hum and feedback. I really don't want that to bother you. And Michael, are you going to help me? Oh, there. Thanks, Derek. Thank you, Derek, very much for your emceeing, but also for the work you do every day. So important in this part of British Columbia. To all of the members of BC Emergency Health Services, they're going through a very challenging time in our province. They want to do their very best for British Columbians, and the pressure in the system is making that challenging. So I am deeply appreciative. So let me start by saying how grateful I am to be here today. And I want to thank Rashmi for reaching out and for the incredible job that she and her team are doing here in Valemount. And I was actually supposed to be in Victoria today, so I'm taking a bit of a detour. I'm going to stay today and tomorrow, and then I'm going to drive back to Prince George, hop on a plane, and go back to Victoria. But this is really important to me. I want to also thank the people who work on my team. Dorothy and Shakoral are here. We have a table over there. We have some information. We have a draw. We have some other things that I've brought back from the legislature to share with you. So please stop by and say hi to Dorothy and Shakoral. And if you have specific issues that we can help you with, that is what my office is for. And we are a community-based office. We spend time supporting people, however they have those needs. We've looked at things like in Prince George, when people need winter clothing, we go look for that. That's part of what we do in serving our communities. So we are in some very challenging circumstances in our province. And one of the things that I am very passionate about is recognizing that it is a giant province we live in. Very, very geographically diverse. This morning, I had nothing but gratitude as I drove along the highway with Dorothy and Shakoral, and we thought, man, we live in a beautiful part of BC. But we do. But I also got a media request when I was leaving Prince George, and you all know what that means when we're driving down Highway 16 East. We have no cell phone service for 3/4 of the, so I really appreciate the update from the technology team, but I'll tell you what, after all of my years in public office and fighting for the fact that that is a public safety issue, when I am driving out here in the winter, you know that if I go off the road, I am in the ditch until the snowplow comes to find me. So we still have to work on all of those things that matter to British Columbians today. Connectivity matters. But if you can't use your phone for 2.5 hours, yes, there are hotspots. I remind TELUS all the time, yes, but my emergency may not come in the location of the hotspot. So we still have to keep fighting, using our voices to remind British Columbians that this is a big province. And our needs, some are the same as others, but some are very different. Many urban British Columbians won't even relate to the fact that we can't use our cell phone on the side of the road in our entire riding. And I tell everyone in Victoria, my riding is the size of Belgium. I've looked up the square kilometers and tried to figure out what does it look like. And you know, there are MLAs in Vancouver who can ride their bike around their riding in about an hour. Well, we have to get in a car on winter roads, and you have to travel back and forth many times for things that other people take for granted. So I really do want to encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity that's being provided around the public about your personal health record. I so appreciated the question about safety, because we do need to know that our personal information is protected. But anytime we can make it easier for people to understand our healthcare circumstances, that's a good thing. I'm still wondering how we put men on the moon, but my medical health record is a challenge. If I'm in Prince George and something happens to me in Victoria, somehow it's like I have to start all over again. And we shouldn't have to be doing that in this province. So obviously, step in the right direction, but lots to do. And I'm proud of you all, for those of you who are actually using technology, and I'm sure that Isabel will talk a little bit about what the senior in British Columbia looks like today in terms of our health and the things that we're doing. She's done some fantastic work on sort of teaching me as well about what are the needs of seniors in this province, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So I'm really looking forward to your feedback, because I can't go and advocate on your behalf if I don't know about the things that are barriers for you and things that are impacting you here in the Robson Valley. So delighted to be here today. Be sure to stop by and visit Dorothy and Shakorl so that they get to know you as well.
Well, we're here outside the Valemount Community Hall for Seniors Fair 2022 with Prince George Valemount MLA Shirley Bond. Shirley, welcome back to Valemount.
Always a pleasure to be in the Valley.
Great. I want to ask you about seniors and what you find the biggest challenges facing seniors today are and moving into the future.
Well, certainly the issues that I hear about most frequently are the issue of affordability, making sure that seniors are able to take care of themselves in community, and so that's really a big challenge. And whether it's the cost of gas or housing or food, that continues to be a big challenge. But also housing. When you think about what seniors want to do, so many of them want to age in place. They want to stay where they love to live, and often there are not the kinds of housing options that they would like to see. So, I continue to hear a lot about making sure we have opportunities, different types of housing, affordable, and options for seniors. So, housing and affordability. Healthcare is also obviously a challenge. We're very lucky here with the complement of physicians we have, for example, but across British Columbia, big struggles for seniors in terms of healthcare.
All right, and a couple of good strides towards housing in Valemount for seniors. One is the area over by the old Ramakata Motel and by the Golden Ears Lodge. There's some seniors housing there in that new facility on Juniper Square. And also coming up is the new seniors facility that's going to be built by the high school.
Well, I can simply say this, that Valemount, the people here have done an exceptional job. Small groups of people working together, advocating to government, looking for ways to provide support. They've done an exceptionally good job. I'm very proud of that. But we need to continue to advocate, to provide support for people to be able to live closer to home. That's what they want to do. Many seniors have told me, this is where they want to age in place. They want to be close to the things they're familiar with. So, Valemount has done a tremendous job. Volunteers, people stepping up with organizations, and we are seeing the addition of housing options in the community, but there's more work to be done. The Seniors Fair today is about hearing from seniors in this region, talking about what matters to them, what more can we do. So it's really a great opportunity to listen and to learn.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming and for bringing Isabel McKenzie, the seniors advocate, down here. What do you hope to take away from this conference?
Well, I think what's most important to me is that, I am locally elected officials do their job based on what they hear from the people who they represent. And so what I need to be able to do is to go back to Victoria, certainly as the healthcare critic and also the critic for seniors and long-term care. I have the opportunity to raise those issues to the government in Victoria, to be the voice of the people that elected me. I think it's fantastic that the seniors advocate is here. She has a very important role in speaking on behalf of seniors across the province. And one thing that matters to me and the people who live here is that when you come here, you have a much better understanding of the issues. And there is a difference between rural and urban British Columbia. So I'm grateful that Isabel McKenzie is also here to learn more that will help us shape policies when we get the opportunity to raise those issues in Victoria.
Great. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. But my primary job at this moment in time is to introduce someone who has a critically important job in the province of British Columbia. And one of the things that I think I simply want to acknowledge is, Isabel, thank you for getting out of Victoria for coming to this part, and this is not the first time you have done this. You have been in McBride, you have been in many other communities across the province. We just want you to know that we appreciate it when people make the effort and show up in every corner of British Columbia. So thank you so much for being here today. We are very appreciative. Isabel has spent a lifetime advocating for seniors, both locally, provincially, and nationally. And she's probably not going to toot her own horn, but let me tell you a little bit about the journey that we took in British Columbia to establishing the position of the seniors advocate. So Isabel wasn't appointed yesterday. She was actually appointed, I think, in 2014. In 2014, Isabel became the first seniors advocate in the country. And I think it was recognized at the time, and continues to be today, that we have a responsibility to people in British Columbia as they age. And one of the things you need to do, in my view, and I was there when Isabel was appointed, is separate that role from government so that we have a person who monitors, investigates, advocates, all of those things on behalf of seniors, but she does that in an independent way. And I just want to say that as the voice of seniors in British Columbia, Isabel never hesitates to speak on your behalf. And that can be very uncomfortable for governments, both mine and the current one. But that's her job. And my job, now as your MLA and as the opposition critic for healthcare and for seniors and long-term care, is to listen. Now, we don't always get there quickly. You know what governments are like. But as Isabel's job, part of that is to lay a framework, to create a pathway to making sure seniors in this province are heard and well cared for. So I'm sure that Isabel will speak to her latest report, which just came out days ago, and other issues that are important to you. But her job is to advise government, specifically the minister, but generally government, on matters related to seniors in the province. So I had the pleasure of working with Isabel during COVID. The government put together a cross-party working group, meaning that myself, also Sonia Furstenau from the Green Party, and members of the current government worked together under Isabel's leadership to talk about what did we need to do to support seniors during the pandemic. And I found it really a pleasure to work with her, a great listener. We came up with ideas, we talked about things, and then she took action and encouraged the government to move down that path. And I should give credit where credit is due, because I can tell you Minister Dix was very helpful on that front. So I'm very appreciative for the opportunity to work with other colleagues. So with no further ado, someone who I hold in very high regard, I also know how important it is to listen. Governments don't always respond as quickly as they should, mine included, and I am very upfront about that. But both Isabel and I are here today, I think, to listen to you, to better understand your issues, and to, through our differing paths, work on your behalf. So please join me in welcoming someone who is making a difference in the province, the seniors advocate, first in Canada, Isabel Mackenzie.
Thank you very much, Shirley, for those very kind words. And it is a great pleasure to be here in Valemount. And the weather that you arranged is spectacular. I drove in from Prince George this morning, and it is a little bit like coming into God's country with the mountains and the sun and the snow. And then I get to the chosen few, the people in the room, and the biblical analogies continue. But it is great to be here. Shirley is quite correct. We're going to get my PowerPoint up there in a second. You know, one of the things that has been very humbling for me in this position, I've now been in it for about 8 and a bit years, is that I have spent all of my personal life and all of my professional life in urban settings. Victoria is the smallest city I've ever lived in. And it has been unbelievably humbling for me to get out into this province, into the rural parts of the province, and to see and meet with the people who live there, and to have the insight to realize, you know, the things we complain about not having in Victoria are so insignificant compared to the challenges around healthcare, and certainly as we get older in the rural parts of our province. And they're not complaining for the things we want. They're complaining for the things we have. And we have to find a way to make the aging experience in rural British Columbia equal to that in urban British Columbia. And for the people who say, well, you know, people choose to live in rural BC, I say, well, thank goodness, because what would our province be without the resources that built the province, that only found their way to market, if you will, because people chose to live in rural BC. You know, the industries and the resources have changed over the decades and centuries, but what hasn't changed is that we need people in this province to live outside the Lower Mainland. And if we don't do that, and if we don't allow them to age in their communities, we are going to face bigger problems. And so it is always a delight and a pleasure to get out of Victoria and away from the Lower Mainland and out into the rest of British Columbia. And one of the things I just want to reference before I get into my official role here, and I'm sure your MLA is on this, but one of the concerns that I do have, which seems an odd concern for my role, but I think you can see how I've come to it, is there's a electoral commission or something going on right now that is looking at reducing the number of rural seats. Now, I, for obvious reasons, have no opinion on who holds those seats, but I do have an opinion on the need for rural BC to be represented in the legislature and as much as possible around cabinet tables. And to take it away just simply because the number of people isn't equaling the density of people in the Lower Mainland is losing sight of the bigger picture. We don't have a system in Canada or British Columbia like they have in the US, where they have the Senate, which guarantees equality regardless of geography. Every state gets 2 senators. And then Congress, which is proportionate to the population. And they both have powers that they exercise. We don't have that in Canada. We only have our provincial legislatures and our federal parliament, which are based on the population. And we have to be very, very careful about the erosion of rural BC. You're going to adjust my mic. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So with that, let's talk about seniors in British Columbia. And I hope people can see this. I'm not sure if we need to kill some lights here, but in any event, so people over 65 in the province of BC, there's now over 1 million people. That is 1 out of 5, or 20% of people in BC are 65 and older. But another way to put it is 4 out of 5 people in British Columbia are under 65, and they're the ones making all the decisions about the people 65 and over. And about 98% of them, by the way, are living in big cities, and they're making decisions about the seniors that live in rural areas. And one of the other interesting things to note is the uneven distribution of seniors across the province. So where I come from on Vancouver Island, we have the highest rate of seniors. We have 1 out of 4, where 25% are seniors. Northern Health actually has the lowest. Not here in Valemount. You have, I think, about 26 or 27% of people 65 and older. But your health authority is not designed for seniors because the proportion that are seniors is smaller. And that's a challenge, Because within health authorities, there are these pockets, these communities with higher concentrations. Even on the island, if you go to the mid-island, the concentration is much higher than 25%. But one of the challenges you face in areas in health authorities that don't have, Fraser Health actually is another one, is who is the health system focusing on, right? More so than in other health regions. So these are the data from the latest census, hot off the press. So first of all, where are seniors living? 95% of seniors live completely independently in their own home. Now that in places like Valemount is probably a single family home. In places like Vancouver, sometimes it will be a condominium, an apartment, but it is their own home. Now, age 85 plus is an age I look at a lot, and you'll see why a little bit more in the next slide. It is also the average age of a person in a nursing home in British Columbia or a long-term care home. They're the same thing. At the age of 85 and over, 77%, almost 8 out of 10 seniors, are still living independently. Almost everybody in this room will live in their own home for the entirety of their life. That is the reality. And so we need to pay attention to what happens in long-term care. It is, without a doubt, where our most frail and vulnerable seniors are. But we have frail and vulnerable seniors living in their own homes, and most seniors are living in their own homes. At age 85 and over, about 9% are living in what we call a retirement home or assisted living, where you have your own unit, as we call it, oftentimes with a kitchen or a kitchenette, but you'll have your meals together with other people, and you might get some services. It's a bit of a range in there, but we call it assisted living retirement homes. 13%, and this went down in the last census, 13% of people 85 and older live in a nursing home. That's it. 13% in this province. 80% of seniors are homeowners. Probably almost everybody in this room is a homeowner. That is one of the differences between urban and rural. If this was a meeting in the West End of Vancouver, probably most of you would be renters. 20% of seniors are renters, but they tend to be more concentrated in the urban areas, and they have some significant challenges right now. Homeowners have challenges as well, but arguably solutions to those challenges can look different for homeowners than for renters. At 65 plus, a quarter of people 65 and over live alone. If you look at under 65, it's much smaller. It's about 10% of people under 65. And then at 85 plus, it goes up, but still the majority of people are living with another person, 85 and over. The reality is most of us enter our retirement years with our spouse. That actually profile is changing a bit for future generations, but of the seniors we have today. And then one spouse will predecease the other. That is the reality. But we are living longer and we are living together longer. And so the age at which we start to live alone is older and older, which has some benefits and also presents a different set of challenges in terms of ability to socialize and get out and about as a widow or a widower looks very different when you're widowed at 62 versus you're widowed at 92. And those are some of the challenges. Driver's license. So at 65, at the age of 65, not 65 and over, but at 65, 88% of people have a driver's license. So most of us enter our retirement years driving. We have the freedom to, when we want to go somewhere, we grab our car keys, we get in the car and we turn the ignition. And that is how we begin our retirement life. At age 85, it drops significantly, but it's still more than half. 58% of people at age 85 have a driver's license. And the important thing to note is it's pretty accurate because by the time you're 85, you have had 3 fitness to drive assessments at 80, at 82, and at 84. So at 85, 58% still have their driver's license. I suspect that would be higher in rural BC because people are more likely to give up their driver's license in urban areas with robust public transit, which doesn't exist in rural BC. But you can see, as we look at everybody over age 85, it drops to 40%, right? So clearly, most of us will go from driving to not driving while we are still living in our own homes. That we have to think about. And then incomes. So this is the very latest income. My report talked about a 2019 income. This is the 2022 median income, $34,000. So to put it in perspective, that's a minimum wage job. So median means that half of the people are below the number and half of the people are above it. It is a more meaningful measure than average. So if we said, what's the average income of a senior in BC? It's just over $47,000 a year. The problem is that about 70% of people don't have that income. It's less than that. There are a number of very high income earning seniors out there, and they are pulling the average up. And I think one of the mistakes we've made is we've looked at the average incomes and come to some conclusions without realizing that half of BC seniors live on an income that's 50% less than the average. So, you know, when we look around, and one of the things I highlighted in this recent report that Shirley's referenced is, in the last 5 years, the minimum wage in British Columbia has increased by 40%, 40. Pension income has increased by 14%, 14. So yes, it was important to raise the minimum wage. I don't think anyone will argue with that, except what has happened is pension incomes have not kept pace with the costs of what a lot of things are because they're driven by their labor inputs, which is reflected in the rising minimum wage. So, you know, we need to think a lot about the senior who is trying to afford the rent and afford the hearing aids and afford the dental care and these other things for which there is no provincial support on very limited incomes. 25% of BC seniors, 25% of seniors, 1 out of 4, live on an income less than $21,000. That may be some of you in this room, I don't know. It will probably be a woman who did not work and has little or no CPP except what she might get as a survivor benefit from her husband. And the survivor benefit on CPP is not that much. I mean, I'm talking to the, singing to the choir here. I mean, you all know the calculations around the OAS and the CPP. And people, you know, talk about this deferring CPP to age 70, which, by the way, actually is what you should do if you can. What's being forgotten is the people who need the CPP as part of their income. One of the interesting things to note, in order to receive maximum CPP, you need to have worked for 39 years. Wait, and during 39 of the years that you worked, you need to have earned in every one of those 39 years the yearly maximum pensionable earnings. Currently, that is $64,000. So anybody working today for less than $64,000 a year, even if they work 39 years, can't get the maximum CPP, right? So when we look at what does CPP provide, what is the maximum, it all sounds great, except the average amount that people are getting is half of that because they didn't work for 39 years or they didn't earn the YMPE for those 39 years. So these are some of the financial realities that I think are escaping the attention of some. So let's look at health data. So One of the things I talk about a lot, and I draw a lot on my experience before this role in community care, is dementia. So the first thing is people under 65, it is possible to develop dementia at an earlier age, but it is very, very unlikely. So it's less than 1% of the population under 65 has a diagnosis of dementia. If we look at the entire population over 65, it is 6% have a diagnosis of dementia. 6%, meaning 94% don't. But what is interesting is when you look at it, it drops to 3% for the age group 65 to 84. It does jump, and arguably it jumps dramatically at 85 plus to 20%. But another way to put it is 80% of people 85 and older don't have dementia. So the reality is, not only are you going to live in your own home, you are likely going to keep most of your marbles, however many or few they might be, for the entirety of your life. You know, I say to people, you know, someone who was a ditz at 30 does not morph into Mensa material by 90, right? So, you know, one of the things we'll talk to family members about, you know, they'll say, oh, my mom or my dad, they're not paying their bills on time. So the first question an astute case manager will ask is, well, did they always pay their bills on time? Because you know what? Some people never did pay their bills on time. Some people never did remember where they put their car keys, right? So we need to remember that. And my message to seniors, and this is very much a reflection of what I saw in the community, is because what I saw was the insidious effect on somebody if they think they're losing their mind. And everything we do reinforces that, and they start to surrender to others decisions they are perfectly capable of making themselves. But every force around them is trying to convince them that no, somebody else should be making these decisions. You should be making the decisions for yourself for the entirety of your life. And just because we don't agree with those decisions doesn't mean they're the wrong decision. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. High complexity chronic conditions. So people under 65 are pretty healthy. One of the reasons why we're in a bit of a mess over doctors, most people actually don't need a doctor. And so we didn't notice that they didn't have one until it started to get to a certain tipping point where people were beginning to notice that the people who actually do need doctors weren't able to get one. That's one area where the urban setting right now is more acute than some of the rural settings. You know, when I started 8.5 years ago, I would hear about challenges around physicians and specialists in rural BC. I didn't hear about it in the cities. Now you're hearing about it in the cities. So I've made a rather caustic comment that maybe now that the city folk are experiencing the problem, it will get solved. But they're certainly talking about it. But you can see again, as we age, 65 plus, 19% of the population have high complexity chronic conditions. So this means you got a couple of things wrong with you, right? So you might have high blood pressure, you might have COPD. It's not just one thing. You might have diabetes, you might have hypertension. And then at 85 plus, obviously it goes up. But again, most people are actually pretty healthy. They're getting older and they're getting frailer. But in terms of an underlying diagnosis of a complex chronic condition, actually, it's not there. Most of us are going to live most of our lives in our own home, retain our capacity for thinking, most of our capacity for thinking, and we're going to be mostly pretty healthy. We'll get frail, and then we will have an illness, and then we will die. That is the journey that most of us will take. Most of us won't have long, drawn-out illness and disability, but we will have some frailty. And there's things we need to think about and choices that we need to make. Frail, long-term care and end of life. Again, what is interesting here, while it's 4% of the population 65 and over, at 65 to 84, it's 2%, and then jumps so at 85. So you can see why I look at that age 85 and over. That's really when most of us are going to start to really have some issues And if you're the health system and you're looking at your population, it's the age at which the health system is really going to start to feel the impact. Now, here's the interesting thing. Everybody talks about this baby boomer generation that transformed the world, whatever it was, 40 years ago. The oldest boomer turned 76 this year. They are 9 years away from 85. So we have not yet begun to feel the impact of our quote-unquote aging population in any way, shape, or form. So if we think it's tough now, just wait. And this is why it is so important to be making decisions, because as an old healthcare professional, I can tell you that a decision made before there's a crisis is going to be a lot better than the decision that's made in the crisis. Okay, right to live at risk. So this goes to capacity and decisions. So, you know, I joke about on your left there, you can see these guys, this will resonate with people in Valemount, climbing up Mount Everest. So I say, you know, to people, your 35-year-old son comes home and says, I'm going to climb Mount Everest. Our first reaction is not to rush him down to the family doctor for a mini mental exam, because he must be insane if he's going to take the risk to summit Mount Everest. Climbing Mount Everest is actually quite dangerous, right? There are quite a few fatalities and injuries climbing the mountain. But our reaction to this 35-year-old wanting to do this is to have pride and start, you know, clearing the place on the mantle where we're going to put the picture with them at the top of the mountain. But fast forward 60 years, the guy that climbed up Mount Everest now just wants to climb up a set of stairs to go to the bed he put his head on for the last 70 years. And oh, no, can't do that, right? So in comes the hand-wringing daughter and the officious case manager, and been there. And, you know, the daughter, Carol, and the case manager, Marge. So Carol says, you know, Dad, this house is a death trap. You're going up those stairs every night. You're going to fall. You're going to break your hip. You're going to go to the hospital, and you're going to die. Isn't that right, Marge? Well, you know, the risks around, you know, climate, we do know. And Dad, by the way, since Mom died, Marge tells me you're not eating right, you know, and if you're not eating right, you're going to get lightheaded, and you're going to fall, and you're going to fracture your hip, and you're going to go to the hospital, and you're going to die. So Dad, Marge and I have been talking, and we've got this place for you. Let me show you the brochure, right? Sunnyside Acres. And, you know, Dad, you can move in like tomorrow, and Dad, you're not going to have to do anything. There's not going to be a single thing for you to do any day for the rest of your life. There will be nothing for you to do. So, you know, Dad turns to Carol, his daughter, and he summons up his 70 extra years of wisdom he has over Carol. And he says, so I moved to this Sunnyside Acres of yours. I'm not going to die? Oh, come on, Dad. Well, actually, you know, it is not a lot more complicated than that. One of the biggest challenges we face as we age is the kindness of others who want to keep us safe at whatever cost. I have seen it over the years. I have been there. Sons and daughters who love their mom and dad and want to hang on to the last little bit they can for as long as they can. But mom or dad might have a different idea. And why did we decide at what age we don't get to decide what risk we live with? Because I'm sorry, immortality is not a goal of care on the plan. Never has been, never will be. And yet somehow we think it is. You know, people move into long-term care, guess what? They fall in long-term care. We screw up their medications in long-term care. We don't do their skin care properly, and they develop decubitus ulcers and get infections in long-term care, and most importantly, they die in long-term care. How we're going to die, when, where, we have so little control over. The one thing we have control over, how we are going to live our life while we are here. And the message is, it's our life. And it's very, very difficult. We are struggling as a society, particularly in North America, to come to grips with this issue, frankly, of death. But the antecedent of that is the risk that people get to live with. The other challenge we have, I'm going to introduce two women. So this is about, these are two 30-year-old women. This is 60 years ago. So on your left there, yeah, your left, you have Jane. So Jane is that girl who did everything right in school. You know, she joined the yearbook club and she graduated and became a secretary and then got married, quit her job and joined the junior league and had the roast dinner on the table every Sunday night and did everything, conformed to every expectation of society. And usually it works out well for people like Jane because when you conform to our expectations, we're pretty kind to you. Same time, same era is Anne, or Annie, the hippie chick, the iconoclast. She went on the road with Jack Kerouac. She took a totally different path than Jane did. And at the age of 30, these women, chalk and cheese. They didn't read the same books, want to go to the same places, see the same movies, vote for the same candidates. They had absolutely nothing in common, and they could express their individuality and the way they presented themselves and dressed very forcefully. Except fast forward 60 years, now they're not Jane, conservative housewife, Annie, iconoclastic hippie chick. They're Jane and Anne, these two lovely 90-year-old women, and they'll have so much in common. You know, they're both 90 years old. And they'll have so much in common. You know, I think we should make them roommates. They're both 90 years old, you know. Jane and Anne have no more in common at 90 than they did at 60, or at 30, than perhaps a shared experience with hip replacement surgery. What's different? How we view them. And we do it all the time. I'm as guilty. I don't know if there's any of healthcare providers out there. We do it all the time. Look at the age on the chart and make assumptions. Where it gets really tricky, think about presenting in the emergency room. You're 30, you're 90, right? You're disoriented to time and place. You are unkept, disheveled. 30-year-old, we're not thinking dementia. We're thinking mental illness or drugs, if we're really honest. 90-year-old, our immediate go-to, dementia. The 90-year-old may also be experiencing drug reaction. It's just we prescribed the drugs, right? Or they have an infection, or they actually have a mental illness, which is different and can be treated, right? The difference is how we view people and this label, right? And that's one of the things. I do believe it is definitely getting better, and I think it will continue to get better, but it's going to be this continual struggle around stereotyping, because when it comes to seniors, it's cloaked in benevolence, the best of intentions, care, kindness, keeping people safe. And I think we have to look no further than how we treated our people in long-term care during the pandemic to look at an example where, for the right reason, we did the wrong thing. And that is a sentiment that prevails across the span of the life of someone as they age. For the right reason, we did the wrong thing. And I think, you know, this is not a problem that governments can solve. This is about all of us and how we're going to come to grips with the fact that our agency and autonomy doesn't have an expiry date. And just because we make a decision that doesn't seem to be in our own in our best interests doesn't mean it's the wrong decision. We make bad decisions all throughout our life. We have the right to do that. So what are the challenges to healthy aging? And I'll talk a little bit about some of the rural challenges. So lack of suitable housing. So you'll notice I didn't say affordable. Affordable is one thing that makes housing suitable, right? And in the urban areas, affordability is the biggest issue. But in rural BC, it is suitable housing. So it is about having a place where I can sell my house and move to. There is no place to move to in many of the rural communities in BC. Now, Valemount, you've got some housing here, but you need more. McBride, where I was a few months ago, they've got a local family that's building some housing there. It's going to be affordable for some, but not everyone is going to be able to afford the housing that they're building. But government is going to have to look at its role differently in terms of housing in rural BC for seniors, because the phenomenon that's been developing, I would say, for about the last 15 years, people are aging in their own communities. So one of the stories I heard a lot and hear a lot when I travel around British Columbia to the rural parts, I will hear stories of people who say, yeah, I came here for 2 years, 40 years ago or 30 years ago and then stayed, and now they want to stay there. So, you know, if you look back 40 or 50 years ago, people would move to the city when they got older. Now they aren't doing that. They want to stay in their own community, and frankly, they can't afford to move to the city anymore, right? The quantum is just too big for people to be able to do that. We're going to have to get our head around what that means and the kind of housing that's going to be needed in places like Valemount or McBride or Vanderhoof or other, and housing not just for low-income people. That is the most acute need, yes. But the other need that is clearly there in rural BC is that there are people who have a house, they can sell the house, they have some money, there is just nothing for them to either buy or rent with that money. And the private market isn't going to produce it for them because there's not enough of them. And so government at BC Housing is going to have to think about, okay, what's our role is going to have to be look different, at least that's my argument. Your role is going to have to look different in rural BC. You're going to have to produce some housing for people who can provide you with some of the money, maybe not all of it, but government is going to have to get in there and develop the housing in order for it to be appropriate. Aging in place, supports, coordination, and costs. So again, you know, when I come from Victoria, so let me give you an idea. Now, I've been out of it for about 8.5 years, but just before I left, in the year before I left, in southern Vancouver Island, we did 10,000 live-in shifts of home support in a year. That's where the home support worker came into the home for 24 hours. We did 10,000 of those shifts in the South Island. So I think it was Quesnel, one of my earlier forays, and I'm talking to the health authority case managers there, and I'm saying, you know, well, how many live-in shifts do you do? And they looked at me, well, what's a live-in? Well, you know, I mean, it having the ability to age in our own homes, which is what most people want, for some, not all, some people will age successfully in their own home and never need any help or be helped by their spouse. But most of us will need a little bit of help at some point. And in rural BC, that is particularly difficult. It's now getting very difficult even in urban areas, but in rural BC, it is particularly difficult. And we're going to need to look at, again, just like with the housing, a different model. I was on the phone with a woman in Terrace, which is arguably bigger than Valemount, but, and she is a senior who has multiple sclerosis. She has MS. It is clear, and she's low income. She's on the guaranteed income supplement. It's clear what we should be doing. We, instead of this parsimonious, you know, we've got like 4 care aides going in for 45 minutes here and 45 minutes there. It's chaos for everybody. We should be giving that woman, even if we gave her 80% of what it was costing to send those 4 care aides in, if we gave her, you know, $3,700 a month, she could find somebody to come and live with her. But we've got to trust the people to make the right decisions, and they will make the right decisions. There was an interesting study in Europe where we took about 10,000 seniors in both groups, and it was in a bunch of different countries. So one group and they were all the same level of need in terms of their physical needs, right? So 10,000 over here. So these 10,000, we sent them the government employed workers, right? The way we, you know, we'll develop the care plan, we'll come in, we'll do this. These other 10,000, we gave them the money to hire their own people. And we let them do it for a year, and then we went back and we asked them about the quality of care they received. So the answers came back, And the people who hired their own people rated the quality much higher. Now, as good academics, our response wasn't to say, oh, well, maybe actually just allowing people to, for whom it's just about the money, but they can care, maybe we should do. No. Our response, and I'm not joking, was to say about, well, they couldn't possibly know what quality is. I'm not joking. Because, over here, this group, we've got all, they did, we went in and we assessed what they needed. And we assigned the worker, and we supervised the worker, and we controlled and we, right? We know. Yeah. That is a challenge. I hear it, and I delivered the program for many years. It can't all be what we call client direct funding. It won't work for some people, arguably even a lot of people, but it definitely will for people like this woman in Terrace. It's what's going to keep her out of long-term care. And we just need to go back to trusting that people, we're deciding what people need based on a very clinical assessment. And part of it is, in BC, and we're not the only province that's done this, we've put this home support under healthcare, right? What most seniors need is not healthcare, they need help, and there is a difference. And we deliver it through a lens called healthcare, and that presents some challenges. And I think it's going to take a while for us to navigate through this. So that's the availability of it. The coordination of it, well, it was a good intro with the 3 different apps for the health records. There are a lot of things out there. There are a lot of agencies out there delivering programs there. You could get quite a long list, of what is there to support. The problem is there's no sense of coordination. We send people from pillar to post. So when we discharge you from the hospital, we will give you the list of all, call the Red Cross loan cupboard to get this, call this, right? We give you the list. We've become referral agents rather than actual case managers. What I see, and to be fair, this is a reflection of working in the city more, I see seniors who, they need someone to go, yes, somebody needs to go in and say where the grab bars need to go, but it's beyond them to be able to get the person hired, get the actual grab. What they need is for us to go in there and set it up for them. And then they'll be okay. But we don't do that in the system. It's a very fragmented system. And then the costs. If you have means, if you have a private benefit plan, it's quite affordable. But some of you, if you haven't already experienced it, and some of you may not experience it, you're going to be surprised at what is not paid for. So grab bars, we don't pay for those. Wheelchairs, we don't pay for those. Raised toilet seat, we don't pay for those. Need a home hospital bed so you can sit, we don't pay for that. You need a hearing aid, we don't pay for that. You need dental care, we don't pay for that. And so what is happening in BC is we see people moving into long-term care. And by the way, the home support we provide you, if you are not on the Guaranteed Income Supplement, so you'll know whether or not you're on GIS. Usually people on GIS have incomes below $26,000. So if you're not on the GIS, we charge you for your publicly subsidized home support. So this is the CHW, the Community Health Aide, who comes in and, if your income is $28,000 a year, okay, that's your income. If you need one 45-minute visit a day, just to get you up and get you going, we are going to charge you $8,800 a year for your publicly subsidized home support. So when we come in and we show you your daily rate, and then we show you what your rate would be per month in long-term care, and we show you what your monthly rate is for subsidized assisted living, it takes 2 seconds to figure out, wait a minute, I go into long-term care, I pay this, everything is paid for. I get my drugs, I get my supplies, I get my equipment, I get everything. I stay in my own home where I still have to pay for everything. Plus I have to pay $8,800 a month or a year for this home support. I can't afford this, particularly if you're paying rent in the Lower Mainland. So costs are very real for some seniors. Not all, but some, and arguably even most. And again, the most aggrieved financially are those seniors who are renting. They are predominantly women. They are predominantly poorer and have been poor all their lives. And they are predominantly either divorced or they've lived alone for the entirety of their adult life. That is really, and to be fair, that profile you're more likely to find in dense urban areas than in rural, although there are people in rural BC on very low incomes as well. Isolation and loneliness. Government cannot fix isolation and loneliness. I'm sorry. I just, the UK government came out with a minister of loneliness or something. For heaven's sakes, we're going to make you play in the sandbox together or fine you. That again, that's all of us. We, as individuals, we need to make the effort to get out and engage with people. And as people, we have to meaningfully engage with the people around us. You can feel isolated and lonely in a room full of people, right? Because you feel marginalized, you feel not valued, not listened to. You know, people aren't daft. You don't lose your ability to understand when people aren't really listening to you just because you're 85, right? You can detect it, and it's a very corrosive kind of effect on people to feel that nobody listens anymore. Well, government, that's about all of us and how we engage with people. The other thing we have to remember is that technology has brought great convenience and we can do a lot of things. And I actually had 3 calls scheduled for my drive from Prince George to Valemount because, of course, coming from the city, it didn't occur to us that there wasn't cell coverage. So I've got a stack of calls waiting. But, you know, every bit of convenience has removed a human interaction. We don't go and talk to the bank teller anymore. We don't talk to the checkout girl at the grocery store anymore. You know, we don't talk to the mailman anymore. All of those things, which on the one hand have freed up time, the next question is, freed up time for what? Right? And so we need to be very, very conscious of that, right? There's an old saying in my business, everybody wants to go to heaven, no one wants to die. You know, everybody wants human interaction, but by the way, you know, I want to do all these things in where I don't have to talk to somebody. And don't get me started on how we talk. Everything's by email. Nobody will pick up the phone and talk to anybody anymore. And it causes no end of challenges, right? You can't get an instant, you know, because there's all these little things that are lost in the translate. You've got to wait till the person gets the email, reads the email, respond. Well, yeah, but all of which could have been dealt with in a conversation. Nobody will talk to anybody on the phone. And then ageism, rights of autonomy and the right to live at risk. That is basically the overarching challenge to all of us as we get older. And you know, Shirley in her introduction said, Isabel will always speak out for you, meaning well, actually, I'm speaking out for myself. It's a bit of an insurance policy on my part, although I'm getting closer to cashing it in every day. I do say to people, when you wake up tomorrow, you may not be old, but you will be older, and one day you will be old. And think about that, and think about what that means. And when people, this is what seniors are and all this kind of stuff. Okay, well, just go and talk. People know what they want. Our challenge is when what we think they need isn't what they want. Well, I want to think about that, right? So I really want to thank you for your time. I just am so delighted. I'm here the rest of today, tonight, and tomorrow before I don't know if Shirley and I are on the same plane back. But I've got to figure out where I'm going to do the calls that were scheduled for my drive back to Prince George tomorrow. But I do want to thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I realize I may also be keeping you from lunch, so I will turn it over. But thank you so much.
Any questions for Isabel?
Oh, there's a question.
Yeah, my name is Seiji. Isolation and loneliness usually you don't feel. But that, to me, that is very important stuff. It's why I see many homeless people in Vancouver and city. They don't want to go to the government assisted room in the hotel because it's a friend. And because I believe it's like that, even again from Japan, in Japan, it's some, have same problem. Government make a housing, and they don't want to stay there. They want to have more freedom and with friends. So isolation and loneliness you don't deal with. But to me, I think it's very important.
It is important for us to interact with other people, but the solution, if I am isolated and lonely, the solution for that is I have to be able to get out and engage with others. And part of that is my responsibility to get out and engage. And the other half of it is the responsibility of the people I'm engaging with. We have to be, and we have to understand that when we create circumstances that create more isolation and loneliness, like things of convenience that keep people away from the kind of human interaction, right? Human interaction, on a day-to-day basis, it may not be that you go and have coffee with somebody or dinner with somebody every night. It's that over the course of the day, you've spoken with and had a chat with 5 or 6 people as you've gone about and done your business of the day. That is a huge social connection, but we're eroding now all the time. And I just want to talk about the technology for a bit. Because in addition to the cellular access service, low-income seniors are far less likely to be connected because they can't afford the connection. And also, even with the connections, older people are less comfortable with things online. And our response is to make it easier to push people online. And I don't mean to pick on our friends at the back, although I think Jess is perfectly capable of defending himself. But every time we push people into technology, there's nobody for them to talk to, right? We don't want you to call, we want you to go online, right? There's no doubt, it is faster, it is more efficient. I understand the labor economics of it all, but we need to acknowledge every action has a reaction. Every time we push somebody online and away from talking to somebody, while for people like me, it might be initially frustrating, I have lots of people I talk to, but there's people out there, that was the person they were going to talk to that day, and it's gone. So we need to understand every action has a reaction around this isolation and loneliness.
Again, your efforts to join to, other people is really good. Actually, in Valemount, I don't have much problem, but I, felt another place, and even you try to join some of the group, you are refused. Not verbally, I refuse, but you can sense.
Yep. That's, as I say, you can be in a room full of people and feel isolated and lonely. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
I just had a question. One of the very first graphs that asking, we had age 65. Yeah. Why would it drop down between 65 and 85?
Okay, so there's a little bit of math there to understand. So 65 plus is 1 million people, okay? 85 plus, I think, is about 200,000 people, okay? So there's 800,000, give or take, in that group of 65 to 84. At that point, the prevalence of dementia is only 3% of that population, but the number is larger, right? Because it's 3% of 800,000, right? Then when you go to 85 plus, it's 20% of 200,000. So it's a smaller group. And the point of illustrating that is to say, because as you can see, it's 6% of everybody over 85, driven in large measure by the 85 plus. But when you're looking at the seniors out and about in your community that you're interacting with that are between the ages of 65 and 84, and you're making some assumptions about, they don't seem to have remembered such and such. I wonder if, remember, the overwhelming odds are that they don't have a dementia. It's only 3% of that population.
Is it 3% of all the people between 65 and 84, or is it 3% of the total population?
3% of people between the ages of 65. So it's 6% of everybody over 65, okay? But in the 65 to 84, it's only 3%, and then it jumps dramatically at 85 plus. But that's a smaller number. And remember, all the baby boomers are in the 3% number. They're going to be, so when we look at the distribution of people over this age, there's going to be a lot more people and a higher proportion of seniors over 85 starting in 9 years, right? When the boomer generation starts to be over the age of 85.
So and remember, there'll be the keynote speakers table that you'll be able to ask questions if you've not remembered them just now.
Okay, all right.
The best part of the whole fair, door prizes. Louise Norlander. There was one after. Steffi McLean. So now there's a bit of a break for lunch. Great food prepared. I just wanted to mention that question. Late at night, I read studies. They studied thousands, tens of thousands of seniors who were happy. And there was two things they found in all the happy seniors: that they had a social network and they volunteered, they give to others. But the part of the study that's very interesting, to look at all the unhappy seniors. And what stood out was they had no social network and they didn't volunteer. So there's a benefit of this study for you. Now, please enjoy lunch, and after lunch will be the keynote speaker.